Hey,
Testing, testing, testing. Can you make it sound a little bit more deeper? I have very soft voice. It's a bit too high pitch. I think we have to hold it. Could we try now? Testing, testing, testing. Much better.
Will be broadcasted to the other.
Testing, testing. No, it's not
It's
good.
going to be broadcasting to the other
Rooms.
rooms.
Okay.
Yes.
Testing. Okay, fine.
Okay, I think we'll wait a bit longer. All right. Can you hear me at the back over there? Perfect. I think we have connection there. We tested that before. Well, then let's begin. My name is Vera Lipton. I am the coordinator here at the Pafos Innovation Institute, and I'm delighted to welcome you all at the very first academic conference held in our brand new premises. These premises are important to us because they symbolize our passion for education, our passion for innovation. The Pafos Innovation Institute is the expression of our commitment to building better communities and empowering talented people. Today, we are very honored to have with us the masterminds of this grand project, the president and founder of IDC Herzliya, Professor Uriel Reichman, and the mayor of the city of Pafos, Mr. Fedon Fedonos. And we welcome our distinguished guests, ambassadors and official representatives from Israel, the United States, France, and the Russian Federation, many politicians and representatives of the Cypriot government who will be introduced later on, academic leaders from many Cypriot universities, representatives of the Council of the Cyprus Agency for Quality Assurance and Accreditation in Higher Education. And we warmly welcome our delegation from Israel, including Professor Rafi Melnik, the provost at IDC Herzliya, members of the board of directors of the Pafos Innovation Institute, Mr. Udi Rekanati, where are you, Udi? And Thanos Michaelidis, the CEO of IDC Herzliya, Dr. Ayelet Ben-Ezer, and my close colleague at the Pafos Innovation Institute, Dr. Kani Lawton-Marcus. We're also delighted to have with us many academic and senior executive staff from IDC Herzliya. Above all, a special welcome to all of you. It's wonderful to share this exciting day with you. Here in Pafos, our hometown, a city with over 4,000 years history of civilization and culture. The ancient Greeks named this city the City of Lights, from the words pan and phos, meaning light spreading everywhere. And it is no coincidence that this beautiful city is the seat of our institute. It is our ambition to spread the light of innovation, education, research, and culture to all neighboring countries in the Eastern Mediterranean, and to establish Pafos as the beacon of light in our region. And in times when so much of the world is covered in darkness, spreading light is more important than ever. The pandemic is the challenge of our day. Our first speaker will cover the economic aspects. An astute economist and a respected voice of reason in Israel and internationally, he's held senior positions at the School of Economics and the School of Government at IDC Herzliya. With a PhD from the University of California, Berkeley, he was the member of the Monetary Committee of the Bank of Israel and a member of the Economic Advisory Council at the Prime Minister's Office and a chair of a macroeconomic forum at the Israel Treasury. Today, he's going to share with us his insights into the pandemic and the world economic crisis. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Professor Rafi Melnik.
Thank you, Vera. It's a pleasure to give the first lecture at the Pafos Innovation Institute. But since I don't have much time, I have only 15 minutes for my presentation, I will go straight ahead. This is the world, the economic world we knew before the pandemic started. What you see is the rate of growth of the world output since in the 21st century. And we see a world of economic growth and development. In the middle, we see a crisis that started in 2008 and 2009. You may remember the subprime crisis that was considered the worst crisis since the Second World War. And you can see that the world output decreased by 0.5 percentage point. The reason I bring this data to you is just to compare what is happening these days. Okay? These are the forecasts of the OECD economic outlook, the latest forecast of what's going to happen to the world output in 2020. They produce two scenarios. The red scenario is if it is a double explosion of the pandemic, and the blue one if it is only a single one. So you see that since these days we're almost sure that we are in the red scenario, we are talking about a decline in world output of about 8%, and if we consider the population growth, we can talk about a decline in output per capita of 9–10%, which is something that we have never observed since the crisis of the 30s in the previous century. This is the prediction of the World Economic Outlook that was produced by OECD for 2021. And you see that they foresee growth, or the renewed growth in the next year, but the longer the period passes, and we are even closer now to 21, I would like to ask the question, is this the reality of wishful thinking? There are many uncertainties. I believe, and this is the main theme of my talk, that before the discovery or the production of a vaccine, the world economy will never come back to this old economic growth. This is you can see what should have happened without the pandemic. This is the green line. This is the rate of growth that the world experienced before the pandemic started. And you see the two scenarios. And it's quite clear that even at the end of 21, we are very far from what we should have been without the pandemic, and the rate of output, the output level at the end of 21 is still below the last quarter of 19, which is before the pandemic started. Now, this is what we see with respect to the new daily confirmed cases per million people in different countries. So there is no doubt now that in major countries we are experiencing a second outburst of the pandemic. You see Spain, you see the USA, you see the UK, you see France. So if we have to take seriously our economic forecast, I think that the second scenario is the more realistic one. Now, let me tell you about the dynamics that I can put as a thesis for what is happening these days in the world. you have the first birth outbreak of the virus. Government established full or partial lockdown, the infection decreases, mounting economic cost. So this is the first outbreak. But then social and political pressures build up, the lockdown is released, and there is a respread of the economic virus. So we are in the second stage. The third stage is that we experience the second virus outbreak. And again, full or partial lockdown, decreased infection, mounting economic cost. This is where Europe is now, at this point, in the circle of dynamics. And then you can see what will happen. They will reopen, and the question is, are we going to have a third outbreak? Okay, if the situation continues and we don't have a vaccine, I think that this is what is going to happen. So we have it in a vicious circle. And the question is, what can be done to break this vicious circle? The vicious circle, in my view, is a result of trying to reestablish normal economic activity and thus lifting full or partial lockdown restrictions under a pandemic reality. To control the circle, we must recognize that normality cannot be achieved before a vaccine is found. This is my view. After controlling for the first burst of the virus, implement and enforce simple rules of conduct to live with minimal rate of contagion, and I would say also minimal economic damage. Human behavior changes under a pandemic. Stimulus policies that generate economic activity during normal times are not effective in pandemic times. We have seen it all over the world, okay? People try to stimulate the economy, and the economy does not react to the normal things that we are used to under normal conditions. Let me show you the case of Sweden and Norway, okay? The expected GDP decline in Sweden and Norway is almost the same. 6.7 in Sweden, 6% in Norway. As you know, in Norway, they did the lockdown policy, and in Sweden, they did not. So we see the second number, the deaths for 1 million people, 582 in Sweden, 51 in Norway. So we ask the question, why is this why there is no difference here in the decline in GDP? The intuition would say, well, they didn't close the economy would have continued functioning the same way as before. But this is the thesis that I have, okay? Under a pandemic, people react in different ways. They save money, they save for a future disease, they save for being unemployed. They are not conducting in the same way, therefore the economic damage is the same. What can be an effective economic strategy? And I propose a two-stage strategy. Okay, I've been trying to publish and to influence these views in Israel, and I must say without much success. Oops. Okay. We need a two-stage strategy. The pre-vaccine strategy, the key guidelines are humanitarian role of the government, like in the case of natural diseases. This is the role of the government before the vaccine. Reduce uncertainty by transparent, and I would add, credible measures and long-term horizon. Prepare a comprehensive economic and social plan. This is what has to be done now. The preparation is crucial for the stage that we will have after the vaccine is found. The post-vaccine, the key guidelines are implement, obviously, the comprehensive economic and social plan and repair the damage caused by the pandemics. Concrete policy measures for these two stages. Provide long-term basic humanitarian income to the unemployed, to small businesses, and to self-employed with a long-term horizon. Reinforce the health system. Reinforce the educational system. Reinforce the welfare system. Implement job training programs for the unemployed. The labor market after the pandemic will be a completely different labor market, and people have to be prepared to the new jobs and to the new careers that will be offered after this situation is cleared up. Postpone counter-cyclical policies for the post-vaccine stage. Many governments, including the government of Israel, have tried to do counter-cyclical policies, and this is just a waste of money, just a waste of budget that we will need it for the second stage. Postpone the treatment of the budget deficit. Don't deal with the deficit now, deal with the deficit later on. Form an interdisciplinary national team to prepare a comprehensive economic plan to restore full employment and economic growth. Make all the preparations needed for the implementation of the plan. This is a crucial thing. Many things are involving infrastructure investment that have to be prepared, they have to be planned. You cannot just do it on the spot. These things are to be prepared in this stage. We have enough time to do all the preparation. Second stage, post-vaccine concrete policy measures. I don't know what I'm doing wrong here. Launch the comprehensive economic plan to restore full employment and economic growth. Central elements of the plan. Mobilize monetary and fiscal policy to stimulate economic activity. This is the time to do the counter-cyclical policies. They are not effective before the vaccine. They will be super effective after the vaccine. Restore aggregate demand. The biggest problem that we are facing is the lack of aggregate demand. Consumers are not consuming the way they used to. Firms and the business sectors are not investing the way they should invest. Exports are suffering because of the world economic crisis, and therefore restoring aggregate demand is a key element in the plan. Incentivize employment in the business sector. Double the rate of infrastructure investment relative to GDP. To start a new growth period, investment in infrastructures is crucial, and these have to be prepared in advance. It's not something that you do in a spot-like policy. Reduce taxes to incentivize business sector investment. Okay? I think that this is the time to reduce taxes, not to increase taxes. Deal with the fiscal deficit and the public debt not before the economy is in a firm path to full employment and growth. We will have to deal with the debt, we'll have to deal with the deficit, but if we try to do it before, it will be counterproductive. You have to do it when the economy is on its way to recovery. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Melnik. Well, this pandemic is a huge challenge indeed, and the point I found most interesting from your presentation is that the governments should do what is necessary to keep the population going and keep the economy going, but perhaps save up for the recovery stage. In this room, we do not shy away from the big problems facing our region in addition to the pandemic. The Pafos Innovation Institute aims to tackle challenges such as climate change, sustainable water management, energy, food security, and of course the challenge of entrepreneurship. Many of you know that Israel is one of the world leaders in this field. And IDC Herzliya is located right at the heart where most of the startups in Israel are located. Our next speaker will share with us some of the secrets of successful startups, not just in Israel, but the broader Middle East region. He's a professor at the Ariston School of Business at IDC Herzliya and a visiting professor at New York University. Previously, he's held positions at the Blavatnik School of Government at the University of Oxford. He has intimate knowledge of the startup culture in Israel and heads up the MBA program of Entrepreneurship and Innovation here at the Pafos Innovation Institute and also at IDC Herzliya. Let's welcome Professor Niron Hashai. Oh, here you are.
Okay, so while they upload my presentation. So it's very exciting to be here for two reasons. First, because it's really one of the first academic conference here at Pafos, and we've been working hard for this place to exist and for our program to exist, and I will talk with you in a moment about what we had in mind when we planned this program and what we are trying to achieve. But secondly, and it's a bit odd, but you know, I'm not used anymore to speak in front of an audience. I haven't done that for the last 8 months, and it used to be my bread and butter, so it's exciting. And in the next few minutes, I wish to speak with you about what I believe is an issue that is going to stay here even after the pandemic. I know it's a bit difficult to imagine that there is life after Corona, but there is. But I think many of our problems in the Middle East are here to stay. And I truly believe that educating for entrepreneurship and innovation is a critical mission and is something that can solve many of the problems that we are facing here. So I guess you all know that the Middle East is fraught with problems. So, you know, so many conflicts. If I will start now, I will never end here, in our place, all around. And of course, these conflicts translate into problems of refugees and into issues of water shortage that are not related to the conflicts, but are here and are a huge problem. Many countries in the Middle East are virtually a desert. More or less, the medical infrastructure in the region is not very strong compared to the Western world. And lots of food insecurity problems that you will hear more about them later on. But basically, you know, there are so many problems here. And a survey that was conducted among something like 3,300 interviewees has revealed like the rising cost of living and unemployment as two major issues that are of the biggest challenges in the Middle East. So this is a pretty gloom picture of the region, and many really think that the region is problematic. But you know, if we are taking the whole discussion into, you know, the world of startups, and we look on the rate of startup initiatives. So, for instance, I have here statistics pertaining to the Arab world. So you see that the new business entry density, which is the number of new businesses opened per 1,000 people in a country, is much lower in the Arab world as compared to OECD, Europe, or East Asia. So it's like 1 to 6, something like that. And there are so many other statistics. For instance, the share of small, medium enterprises in the Middle East is something around 0.3%. It is something closer to 6-7% in the Western world. The share of business owners in the Middle East is around 2 to 3% ranges. It is, again, numbers closer to 7-8% in the Western world. So we see many indices showing that the whole notion of entrepreneurship in the Middle East is not so strong. And in many countries in the Middle East, the public sector is still sort of the default choice for early careers. So you finish your education, your university, or even something else, and you are looking for like a career, a safe career in one governmental office. And I believe this is also one of the problems that we are trying to address here. But having said that, let's look on some more positive things. So one important positive thing is that the population in the Middle East, in North Africa, is very young. So you can see here numbers, but like most of the countries in the region have over 15% of the population is between the age of 15 to 24. It's much younger the population, for instance, in Europe. Yeah? So this is a strength of the region. And there is actually a tension which is quite interesting in that respect, because if you look, I mentioned unemployment earlier on, if you look on the unemployment patterns in the Middle East, you see, this is the dark blue over there, that those who are with more advanced skills, that are actually more highly educated are those that are more unemployed. So there is this tension here that I will touch upon in a moment. Like the unemployment is a huge problem, but unemployment of the educated. And then there is another interesting thing. We have a high rate of mobile phone penetration, which for me is some kind of statistic of the extent to which people are digital in the Middle East. So, it varies, but, on average, we know that statistics are that 88% of the people use cellular phones daily. 94% of the people in the Middle East own a mobile phone. So, there is this notion of, we use mobile phone, we are open to digitization. And then you ask the question, okay, if this is such a big thing in the Middle East, surely we will have so many companies offering digital services, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And once again, you see that the Middle East falls way behind the US, Europe. Of course, it varies, but it's still, half of them. We know that only something like 0.3% of the companies in the Middle East have some kind of digital presence. These numbers are compared to 6-7% in OECD countries. We know that only 1.5% of the companies in the Middle East use online retail. This is 5 times lower than what's happening in the Western world. A survey that was recently done by McKinsey Digital shows, for instance, that the potential for digitization in the Middle East has reached 8%, and the figures are around 15 to 18% in Europe and the US. So I think, again, if I showed you one tension, which is a lot of unemployment of educated folks, here we see another tension that says there is openness to digitization, but it's actually unfulfilled. And I believe that when we are trying to understand why, there are several reasons. One of them is lack of finance. We have to admit then, maybe this is the most severe thing. Venture capital is only 0.03% of GDP in the Middle East and North Africa. From the economy, it's around 5% in OECD. But the second thing, and you see here a survey that was done, this is, I think, from the Arab World Competitiveness Review, which is a publication of the World Bank, shows that there is a lack of education to entrepreneurship in the Middle East. Only 10% of the universities in the Middle East offer some kind of an entrepreneurship program. And this is, to a large extent, our way to solve these two tensions that I recently mentioned. We are trying to make a change at Pafos Innovation Institute, and the change aims to exactly tackle these two challenges. We come here to offer a program in entrepreneurship and innovation that first will embrace digital transformation. We know that the world is becoming digital. It is surely becoming much more digital after COVID-19. And within our planned MBA program, which I'm heading, digital transformation is a big thing. This means that we aim to teach our students critical thinking of the 21st century and how to use digitization, artificial intelligence, machine learning tools, and how to advance data science for business applications. We are not teaching our students, we are not planning to teach them to be programmers, don't get me wrong, but they will have this unique role of translators, of being able to understand business problems, and I will be very specific in a moment of what business sectors we think are important that we should focus on, and will we know how to come with suggestions for applications, for digital tools to solve them. We'll be teaching them Python and programming and data analysis, et cetera, to allow them the basic skills to know and understand how to embrace digital transformation. Then it comes the question, okay, what should be solving? An entrepreneurship and innovation program here, what it should be doing? And I truly believe that it's very important that this program will be led by local and will be aimed to solve the region's problem. It cannot be some Harvard guy coming to lecture on innovation and entrepreneurship because it simply will not fit what we need here. We need it to be relevant. of people with deep understanding of the region's problem, and there are many, as I just showed you. And we aim, together with our students, to take this program to solve current and real challenges of the region. Water challenges, healthcare challenges, urban development, food security. I'm not sure that we will be able to solve the conflicts issue, but many other things we can address, and we can address with digitization. How do we do that? Many ways, and many of the things we are doing already back home at IDC. It involves real-world experiences, talking to business persons, learning for case studies. It involves mastering data analysis, I just mentioned that. Importantly, it involves experiential learning, putting our students, and I think this is the most important thing when it comes to educating people for entrepreneurship. Put them in a real experiential situation. Push them to generate ideas with all the problems, and then to offer products that will need to be changed, and then take them to startup. We will be following them for the whole process, from an idea to a product to a startup. I think that by doing that again and again and again in a program, at the end of the day, they will acquire the mastery to do that. Lots of practicums, meaning assigning people in internships in companies, importantly, and lots of group work. I think we know that diversity breeds innovation. We see the problem as the home for people that are coming from all of the region, bringing different skills and helping each other to come with new ideas. Finally, why here? So I think for me, or for us, I think it's quite natural. Pafos is a natural location to do all this because it's in the heart of the Middle East. It has the important understanding of the Middle East, but strong links to Europe, both Western and Eastern. It's a EU member, traditionally considered neutral, which is important, and has a solid understanding of the Middle East problems. So we believe all that makes Pafos Innovation Institute a classic place to address these two challenges of entrepreneurship, of advancedly educated young people by giving them the digital tools to do so. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Niron, for sharing your insights. Clearly, there is lots of space for development of entrepreneurship and innovation in the Middle East, especially in the digital space. Another program that we are incredibly proud of at the Pafos Innovation Institute is a master's degree in integrated water management. And today we will hear from a highly experienced practitioner in this field, especially in wastewater management and precision agriculture. Professor Iggy Litauer is the head of the hydrochemistry law at MIGAL, the Applied Research Institute at Galilee, and he's the proposed chair of the water management department at the Pafos Innovation Institute. Iggy has devoted most of his career to building innovative ecosystems that encourage collaboration among scientists, industry, farmers, and water managers, both in Israel and internationally. To share his wealth of experience, he's going to talk to us about the challenges of climate change and how they impact water management in our region. Can I ask you to welcome Professor Iggy Litauer on the stage?
Thank you. I think I have a quite difficult job. First of all, I have to teach you a crash course in climate change. Once you graduated with an A degree, I hope to convince you there is a connection, some connections, between climate change and what we are trying to teach here, which is the integrated or innovative water management. So this is a slightly different diagram than what you've seen before. Okay. I took that from a study that was published in PNS in in 2016. The last 2 million years, in geology we call Pleistocene. During the Pleistocene, which is the blue, planet Earth experienced glaciation and deglaciation. Those cycles came around 41,000 years or so. And the reason that we have those glaciation and deglaciation cycles is to do to orbital cycles. And that's relation between the planet Earth, the Moon, and Jupiter on the way around Sun. Okay? So, but the last 10,000 years, we term it Holocene. Now, up to this point of a Holocene, that the concentration of CO2 difference between glaciation and deglaciation was roughly 90 parts per million per volume, which stood around 278. And that was roughly correct, without getting into the details, throughout the Holocene. Now we came, humans. And in the last decade or so, we put a new thing that was not in existence when I started studying geology in early 1970. And it's called Anthropocene. And right now we are here where human emissions change the concentration in the atmosphere from 278 to 420. Now, according to this model, we have two routes, two paths. One, if we continue, like the guy in the Oval Office tried to do, is to go straight here. You know, he claims no climate change, no sea virus, no nothing, okay? But if we continue like that, we will see biosphere degradation. And once we pass the planetary threshold, we will get into a situation where we have interesting feedbacks. Positive feedback, unlike its name, is bad. It increases the phenomena, the process. And we will have no negative feedback. And we will not be able to turn Earth backwards. It's one ticket, excuse me to say that, to hell, which is hothouse Earth. If we reach there, the sea pandemic will be kid stuff. We don't want to be there. We have an alternative. It's a matter of Earth system stewardship. And if we go and bring Earth here, we will stabilize the climate to a point. Now, what we are learning from that, given our understanding of geophysical and biophysical feedbacks intrinsic to the Earth system, where might such threshold be? That's a question. If a threshold is crossed, like I showed before, what are the implications, especially for the well-being of human societies? And finally, what human action could create a pathway that would steer Earth system away from potential threshold and towards maintenance of interglacial-like conditions? So let's talk about feedbacks. Our general climate model suggests that in the year 2021, in other words, another 80 years, the warming will be around, the increase in temperature will be roughly 2 degrees. Right now, the average is 15.6, and so we'll have 2 degrees more. However, those calculations did not take into account those feedbacks. For example, permafrost thawing, the entire Arctic area, from Alaska all the way to Russia and beyond, has soils that contain ice from the Pleistocene. Once they begin to thaw, they would release CO2 and methane. Methane is about 21 times more potent than CO2. Next, relative weakening of land and ocean physiological ceasing. Now, you may ask yourself, or at least we geologists ask ourselves, what is the difference between Earth and Venus? The distance to the sun does not explain why over there the temperature is above 400, while we have around 15, as I said. The key issue here is the atmosphere, structure, and content. Most of the CO2, 99% of Venus' atmosphere is CO2, while here is 0.03. Where are the other carbon go? Where does the CO2 go? It go to the lithosphere, rocks, biosphere, forest, pedosphere, soil, cryosphere, ice, and the interaction between them. I'm an atheist, but when I talk about that, I start believing in something, because Earth is so unique compared to all the other planets. Increased bacterial respiration in the ocean, Amazon forest dieback, boreal forest, the boreal is the higher elevation forest. All this will add about 0.47 degrees on top of the 2 degrees. Now, this is a concept that I can practically talk about it entire course. Okay, I don't have this time here, so I'll do it in a succinct way. The idea here is tipping cascades. When and if we cross the threshold, there are factors that play a game here. It's like tipping buckets. You fill it with water and then it starts flowing to the next and to the next. So I'll give you a few examples. Greenland ice sheet may melt. It may affect the thermohaline circulation. The thermohaline circulation is the energy movement within the ocean throughout the globe. What's in a way missing here, and I was a little bit pissed when I read the paper and I realized that it's not there, but first I will say the El Nino Southern Oscillation is this seesaw of air pressure. Now we have another thing here which is called Arctic Oscillation, and it's from the Arctic to the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. And if this goes down, the jet stream will move down, and then you may start having more drought. What is it? Okay. Okay, thank you. That may affect Cyprus big time. You will have by far more droughts. So please go ahead and find some more gas in the Mediterranean Sea so you can build more distillation plants, because you will not have enough water for agriculture, to drink, what have you. So you see, this is the tipping buckets or the tipping cascades, that once you pass this threshold, and there are so many more things here. Of course, Indian summer monsoon. Imagine that. You change that. Europe right now facing immigration issue. Kid stuff. If India will dry, what they have now, 1 billion and 2 people, they will come to Europe. Try to stop them. It happened before. So consequences. Analysis of factor and processes of climate change suggests that Earth system may approaching a threshold that could lock in a rapid pathway towards much hotter condition, what we call hot Earth. This pathway would be propelled by strong, interesting biosphere geophysical feedbacks that I showed you earlier some, difficult to influence by human action and a pathway that could not be reversed, steered or substantially slowed. Climate change will affect precipitation, alter water resources, hydrological pattern leading to floods, drought, impact water quality, increase water demand, especially for irrigation, which in turn may jeopardize food security. So here is the crux of my talk. What is the impetus of studying management of integrated resources? Kind of change a little bit of the word here. Why on earth will come here and teach and give this degree? I was looking for a model to present those ideas. So I took the work that published by two British in 2008 in Journal of Hydrology. That was written, I think they are not hydrologists, they are economists. So I have some difficulties to read it, but I did my best as somebody who comes from hard sciences. But I like their model, which says climate change impact water. Impact water will reduce availability, increase demand, increase flood risk, and issue of water quality. All this bring us to what type of adaptation measures we can or ought to take. All come to one thing: information and knowledge. That's what we hope to give the students here. Because the students who are coming here will not have my record of geophysics and geochemistry. They will come with some sort of a BSc degree in science, and will give them a fair amount from your end as far as management and finance, and tie it with water system understanding. So what they have to do, they will take all these adaptation issues and bring it to the next level, which is called barriers. Many of us, even in academia, who try to bring idea from A to B, we end against barriers. Institutional barriers, people barriers, stupidity barriers, you name it. Those people who will be study here, hopefully, will be manager smart enough to overcome those bureaucratic barriers to bring us here, which what we call adaptation and management, or what we call here manifestation. Okay, so this is the bottom line. If we have enough people that have improved knowledge and can do all those things by surmount issues of barriers, we can reach the stage of successful adaptation. And if we reach successful adaptation, we'll reduce the risk and vulnerability. In other words, we will not reach the very bad situation of hot Earth, and we maintain and improve our economic, social, and environmental sustainability. So I believe this type of degree is really called for, and hopefully we'll be successful to establish it here, and people will come from the entire Mediterranean area, maybe even beyond, but that's not for me to do, that's for whoever know how to establish it, publish it, market it, and we'll be here to teach it. Thank you.
Many thanks, Professor Litauer. I really enjoyed the crash course in climate change and your intriguing insights into what can be done to improve Earth system stewardship and what we can learn from the Israeli experience in this process. This brings us to the last presentation for today. In addition to the crisis arising from the coronavirus pandemic, we have recently witnessed profound geopolitical changes in the Eastern Mediterranean region. Our next speaker will take us through the most salient implications of these geopolitical shifts and how such developments are likely to impact our lives, our businesses, our societies, and education into the future. Our next speaker is one of Israel's most distinguished diplomats. He is the head of the Abba Eban Institute of International Diplomacy at IDC. He served as Israel's permanent representative to the United Nations, ambassador to the United Kingdom, and Director General of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Working in the Foreign Service for over 30 years, he has carved out an international reputation as an influential voice of Israeli diplomacy in the world. Ladies and gentlemen, Ambassador Ron Proser.
Ladies, gentlemen, it's really a joy to be here. I want to begin with a story. This American robbed a bank in Turkey, $50 million, and basically was brought into interrogation with the Turkish authorities. And there was a translator because he doesn't know Turkish. They said to him, "Where is the money? Where did you hide the money?" The translator translates, and they say to him, "Look, if you don't tell us where the money is, we are going to break your bones." So he says, "I don't care." The translator translates, "I don't care." The next day he's brought in with blood, all his bones are broken. He's asked again, "If you don't tell us where the money is hid, we are going to shoot you in the head." The translator tells them, "If you don't tell us where the money is, they're going to shoot you in the head." The guy stands up and says, "The money is in the second room on the left, 5 steps away from the cupboard." The translator translates, he says he doesn't care. The point of the story is, always know who's translating what for you. And now let's dive into the Middle East. What you see now happening in our region is really a change in paradigm. What is the change in paradigm? The change in paradigm is that for the first time, the countries around us, and I will brand it for you as a brand, as a clash of coalitions, not a clash of civilizations. Basically, and what is the change in paradigm? The countries, the pragmatic countries, are basically saying to themselves, we are more interested to advance our national interest, personal interests, economic interests, and also security interests, and we are putting that at top priority. And we begin to see Israel as part of the solution, not part of the problem. And we decided that it's maybe more effective for us to influence Israel's policies by engaging with Israel than by sitting on the balcony and shouting, "It's a lousy show." How can they substantiate it, rightly or wrongly? Because of the move that we did, we were able to actually stop Israel's idea of annexation. They look at Egypt and Jordan and say to themselves that Egypt and Jordan, each in its own area, are able to influence Israel's policy, not completely, by the fact that they have a peace agreement with Israel. Now, we have to address, of course, the elephant in the room. And by saying elephant, I don't just mean the Republican Party. I could say either the elephant or the donkey. I'm afraid to use the donkey. But what do we see? We see here not a revolution, because what you see is suddenly something coming out. No, this is an evolution of a relationship that was built in the region for many years. I personally and a wonderful team worked out, when I headed Israel's Foreign Service 2004 and 2005, to establish part of the infrastructure that operated under the radar screen and came to fruition because of a couple of strategic issues where, and now I'm getting into politics, and I'm going to analyze it very coldly. It doesn't make a difference what you think politically, left or right. But you see a new administration under Trump challenging the existing paradigms. In essence, moving on the economic side. I'll remind you, the conference in Bahrain, everyone says, he's a meshuggah, it won't work. Suddenly things are moving. Moving the embassy to Jerusalem. What are people saying? Oh my God. There's going to be fireworks, and American embassies are going to put. Oh, they did the work beforehand. Nothing really changed dramatically. But things in the region, suddenly countries in the region, where I call the coalition of the willing, basically countries who are putting their own people interests in the forefront, decided to move forward. And to move forward because they felt they have the American support to move forward. Now, like I said, it doesn't make a difference what you think politically. If you look at this administration, what it created in the change in thought towards the region is the fact that they see, this administration, they see eye to eye with Israel and the pragmatic Arab countries, like Saudi Arabia, like the Emirates, eye to eye on three issues. One, on the issue of Iran. Two, on the issue of terrorism and radical Islam. And three, they see those countries, including Israel, Saudi Arabia, as a strategic partner to the United States of America. All those three elements are vital national security interests and allows them to do certain moves in the region that create what I would call a paradigm shift. Now, this paradigm shift is important because it engages in what we are doing here in Pafos, and that is the people-to-people. We have peace with Egypt. We have peace in Jordan. I don't have the time to analyze it, but there's no people-to-people. We have an amazing defense and military intelligence cooperation. People-to-people? No. No Egyptians are coming to Israel. No Israelis are going to Egypt. And now we have something new. We feel now with the Gulf, this is like the gold rush. We have to, Rafi and Neon, you have to stop people running into tourism. There's interest. People are talking inside the circles of enlarging the circle of peace. But we have what I would call the coalition of the unwilling. And the coalition of the unwilling begins with Iran. Sorry, we have to add Turkey into that coalition of countries that are not promoting the circle of peace, that basically stand up and are going against those elements which are trajectory that, to my mind, because of the element of people to people, can really change this region. And we have to take this as an example of innovative thinking, also in the issue of diplomacy. What is innovative thinking? Niron, I have to give you what is really innovative thinking? Two friends, one has a Labrador, the other has a Chihuahua. They both want to eat in a restaurant that doesn't allow dogs in. So the guy with a Labrador tells the guy with a Chihuahua, watch me. He goes into the restaurant and says, I would like a seat. The waiter says, we don't allow dogs in. He says, this is my INC dog for blind people. He said, excuse me, sir, of course. Come in. The guy with the Chihuahua follows. I'd like a seat. We don't allow dogs in. He says, this is my INC dog. The waiter looks at him and says, Chihuahua is your INC dog? He looks him in the eye and says, what, they gave me a Chihuahua? So the problem here is to always think in an innovative way, out of the box, and I hope that this will allow us in the people-to-people to encounter the regional cooperation that will lead us to innovative thinking and cooperation. Thank you.
Well, that's really, really wonderful. And this paradigm shift and people-to-people relationships and the changing geopolitics in our region, they're really impacting on our lives. And here in Cyprus, we're very excited about these developments. And the relationships between Cyprus and Israel have never been better. And now we have these Middle Eastern countries coming on board as well. Of course, that at Pafos Innovation Institute, we're hoping to harness this beautiful new energy and encourage innovation and bring students from the Middle East to study with us here in Pafos. Well, the topics we've covered today, from pandemics, accelerating climate change, emergent economic opportunities, and tectonic geopolitical shifts, all these developments represent unprecedented transformations. These transformations are creating new realities, and we have no choice but to embrace these realities, to harness the benefits, and to manage the risks, to bring innovation, education, and entrepreneurship into the process. This is where the Pafos Innovation Institute aspires to add value, to spread the ancient light of Pafos to the broader region. And we want you, all of you guys, to become the messengers of light, to help us spread the word and welcome our diverse students to this beautiful city of Pafos, to encourage us on this journey, and to thank our fantastic speakers today. I want you now to give them a huge, like a really huge applause. Come on, guys. Thank you very much. What about the second room? The second room is not clapping, Katerina. The second room is not clapping. Oh, come on, guys, you can do a bit better. We cannot hear. Okay, well, let's try once more together so we can have a really good inauguration. Come on. Please show us how you want the Pafos Innovation Institute to succeed. Today is the day. Well, wonderful. Thank you very much all. Thank you for being here today, and thank you those who have made this conference happen, to broadcast it to our broader audience online. We have Katerina here, we have our technical people here as well. Thank you all. Now, just a couple of organizational issues. We didn't have time for questions today, but our distinguished speakers are staying with us and will be here for the rest of the evening. So please feel free to chat with them outside and connect. And now, well, let's enjoy some live music and enjoy the celebration. Thank you very much.